Welcome to the ATL Arts Collective, powered by ArtsATL. If you're curious about the people making Atlanta a more creative, interesting, and joyful city, you are in the right place. I'm Kim Drobes, and each week we feature reporting from ArtsATL writers, interviews with artists and cultural leaders, and a different featured contributor. Today, we get to welcome back Summer Evans. You may already know Summer from our time together on WABE's City Lights Collective, but nowadays you can hear her as the voice of Rough Draft Atlanta's newsletter recap. Summer, I am so happy to have you back with us.
It's great to be back. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. I am so excited because in a bit, Summer looks for the answer to a quintessential Atlanta question. Why, until very recently, have there been no peach trees on Peachtree Street? Plus, this week marks the 30th anniversary of the '96 Olympics, and we'll reflect on one of the most debated art designs of our city's history. Yes, I am talking about Izzy, Atlanta's Olympic mascot. Created by designer John Ryan, the abstract blue character featured 5 Olympic rings scattered across their body, oversized sneakers, and it was undeniably very odd. From there, we'll visit SCAD FASH for the new Dior exhibition, and we'll close today with ArtsATL executive editor Shane Harrison and his best bets for the weekend. But first, 20 years ago, the iconic movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail was turned into a flashy Broadway musical with brand new songs and the signature humor only Monty Python could imagine. Next week, the hit show comes to the Fox Theater, and the company includes one of Atlanta's own, Delaney Benson. Theater correspondent Sally Fuller has more.
Sitting in the St. James Theater on Broadway watching Spamalot in 2023, Delaney Benson had 2 prevailing thoughts. Number 1, she thought it was the funniest show she had ever seen. And 2, she would give anything to be in it. In December, the Gainesville native joined the touring company of this same production and will soon return home to perform it on the Fox Theater stage.
I saw my first, Broadway national tour at the Fox. So now, 10 years later, I'm there. So I'm really so looking forward to it. Like all my family and my friends, like all my cousins, my aunts and uncles, my neighbors, like everyone has gotten their tickets and they're so excited because, a lot of them don't see theater. So then when they know someone that's in the show in their hometown, I feel like my hometown is very excited to be supportive of the arts that week.
Making her national tour debut, Benson has a fast-paced role in the ensemble. She and her fellow ensemble members play many roles in each performance, and sometimes even move set pieces.
We're tap dancing, we're doing like ballroom, and we're doing like a cheer number, so we come out with like pom-poms. So yeah, we're kind of in most of the things, even if you don't really feel like we're there, we're getting ready to come on stage. And if we're not on stage, we're doing like 12 quick changes. It's pretty busy. I would say that this is like the busiest show I've ever been a part of.
Benson also understudies one of the leads, the Lady of the Lake. Those performances are almost nothing like her ensemble nights.
When I've gone on for the lead, it's a totally different type of beast. Like she has a lot of songs to sing, but not a lot of scenes. And then she's kind of gone for 45 minutes. So it's like figuring out to pace myself while not on stage and have to kind of still stay in the zone when, you have like a 45-minute break.
Typically, tours have what's called a put-in. That is, a dress rehearsal to give understudies a chance to perform their alternate roles with the set before adding an audience. But the first time Benson got the call to perform as the Lady of the Lake, it was so early in the run that there had been no put-in yet.
I think I got like an hour notice. There was kind of like an emergency, and I, quickly Ubered to the theater, and they fit me in all my costumes to make sure everything was good to go.
Her debut as a lead passed in a flash, and she was back in the ensemble mere hours later for the evening performance. When I talked to her, she was looking forward to having her first set of scheduled performances as the Lady of the Lake.
Kind of as an out-of-body experience, like going from one thing to another so quickly. So it'd be nice to I have like 5 shows in a row to kind of, sink my teeth into it because, I'll go 2 months without going on. And then all of a sudden, that day I get the call. So you kind of have to be ready whenever, which I kind of like. It keeps me on my toes.
The daughter of actors Ray Benson and Jodie Benson, who have performed on Broadway and beyond, her dance training began in the kitchen with her father.
He would teach me a combination from Singing in the Rain. He learns the original choreography with the show that he did on Broadway. And so growing up, I remember that was like our little thing. We would always have dance parties in the kitchen and we would just break into tap. So I feel like it kind of brings me back to really great memories from my childhood.
The triple threat performer's childhood also included ballet lessons at a dance studio and community theater productions at both Gainesville Theater Alliance and Red Phoenix Theater Company.
GTA was great. I mean, like when I was growing up, I was like, this is Broadway. Like everyone is so talented. It's like in my backyard practically. And then I went to Gainesville High School and we did 6 shows a year. We did 2 plays and 4 musicals.
Benson eventually studied musical theater at the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, but at one point she had exchanged tights for cleats.
I had literally told my parents, I was like, I think I want to quit dance. Like, I really hate wearing tights. I don't want to wear a bun. Like, everything is itchy and I'm really not loving it. And they were like, okay, sure. So I switched to soccer for 9 years. Then I was doing some high school shows and I was like, I can't do both. Soccer practice and rehearsal were at the same time. So I kind of had to choose. And I was like, you know what? For long-term, longevity, what's going to be more substantial? I feel like professional soccer players, they quit when they're, 30s. And I was like, I don't know what I would do after that. So let me try this singing and dancing thing.
While Spamalot is a dream fulfillment already, she still has a few other dreams in mind, including playing Glinda in Wicked, but only if she's not too tall at 5'9".
I feel like I've heard mixed things. I heard that I'm too tall to fit in the bubble in Wicked, but then someone the other day was like, oh, you could totally be Glinda. So I would love to be Glinda. I don't know if they have height requirements, but it would also be pretty funny if they flew me in the bubble and I had to crouch down because I was too tall.
Her other dream role is Polly Baker in Crazy for You, which she understudied soon after college graduation, and which hits very close to home.
I grew up listening to all the songs, and it's Gershwin, and there's tap dancing, and just kind of that golden age era, I feel like, is something that I thrive in. My mom originated the role back in the 90s, so, I've seen bootlegs of her doing it, and when I did it for myself, even just doing the understudy rehearsals, I was like, if this is all I have, I'm going to take it. But it would really be nice to kind of do it in a full sense.
For now, Benson looks forward to finally making her professional debut in her hometown.
I have not been able to do professional theater in Atlanta just because, how the cookie crumbles, or it didn't go my way, or it didn't get to go to audition. But it's kind of crazy that I'm on the biggest stage now in Atlanta performing in an equity national tour. So if that's not a testament to what will be, then, I don't know what is.
For the ATL Arts Collective, I'm Sally Fuller.
You can read Sally's full story on artsatl.org. Our featured contributor today is Rough Draft Atlanta's Summer Evans, and she brings a really interesting and so Atlanta story with her. Summer, would you set this up for us and share why you wanted to dive into this specific piece of Atlanta history?
Yes. Like you mentioned earlier, until recently, there were no peach trees on Peachtree Street, which, being a Georgia native, I never really thought about it until it was in the news. And so Pearson Farms donated some peach trees for Peachtree Street kind of ahead of the FIFA World Cup, kind of spruce things up. And it just got me thinking about the origin of names and why was Peachtree Street named this if there currently aren't any peach trees? And so I kind of did a deep dive and found some things that were kind of like, is it a mistranslation or not? And back and forth. And I just kind of wanted to dive into the truth and kind of decipher between fact versus fiction. And that kind of got me down a rabbit hole to figuring out the origin of the name.
Wonderful. Okay, here's Summer Evans with the story of peach trees on Peachtree.
Peaches are synonymous with Georgia. From our license plates to county names to our delicious cobblers, our identity stretches far beyond the fruit itself. And I say that as a Georgia peach. When walking around Atlanta, you might notice that several streets, 71 to be exact, bear the name of the juicy fruit on it. But until recently, few peach trees reside on the most well-known thoroughfare in Atlanta. And that got me thinking, how did Peachtree Street get its name if peach trees didn't naturally grow there?
This main thoroughfare in the city has an incredible history.
That's Paul Crater, Vice President of Collections and Research Services at Atlanta History Center.
It started long before there were white settlers in Atlanta.
Peachtree Street originated in a Muscogee Creek Nation settlement in what is now the Bolton neighborhood, or Atlanta's Upper West Side. The name Peachtree Street originated from the Muscogee word Pecanahuli, meaning standing peach tree. That word has long been debated by historians whether it was a mistranslation and was actually standing pitch tree, referring to Georgia's pine trees or the sap that comes from them. Raylan Butler, Secretary of Culture and Humanities at the Muscogee Creek Nation, says Pecane means peach in the Muscogee language. She believes the stories that there was a single peach tree on a mound at the confluence of a creek, now known as Peachtree Creek, reflect the name correctly. And Butler believes there was probably more than one peach tree, since many places were named after things that were abundant. Crater has another account to back the peach versus pitch debate.
George Washington Collier Road is named after him, who was the postmaster of the area, and he claimed his route took him past Standing Peachtree. And in the 1810s, he said there was a giant peach tree there that they named the adjacent creek for. And then there are early written accounts in the 18th century referencing the area. There's a 1782 military letter referencing the place as Standing Peachtree.
Standing Peachtree was a settlement between the Creek and Cherokee nations. And side note, English settlers referred to Muscogee Nation tribes as Creek Indians due to the large number of rivers, creeks, and streams in their lands. In the War of 1812, the trail from Standing Peachtree became instrumental to Georgia soldiers.
The War of 1812, the Muscogee Nation sided with the British. And so white settlers in Georgia were in direct conflict with the Muscogee. And so the state of Georgia built a series of forts as bases to fight the Muscogee Nation, including Fort Peachtree, which was built on kind of high ground overlooking Standing Peachtree. Didn't really see a lot of action, but they wanted to build a military road from that to connect to Fort Daniel at Hog Mountain in Gwinnett County. And so that military road was built using the existing Native American trail from Standing Peachtree along what is now Moore's Mill and West Paces Ferry, and then terminating in Buckhead and then heading north towards Gwinnett County.
These Muscogee trails eventually became Peachtree Street between the 1830s and 1860s. So if that's how Peachtree Street got its name, what happened to all the peach trees? Jim Hackler, co-founder of the Five Points Community Garden, believes it's due to Atlanta's climate being challenging for any fruit trees to thrive.
Atlanta is known as this incredible tree canopy we have, and trees can do well a little bit further out of downtown, but urban street trees tend to not have a really long life because they're surrounded by concrete and it tends to be warmer, and you're dealing with pollution, you're dealing with the heat island aspect. We had a late freeze and our donut peach, all the blossoms got frozen on it.
Back in June, the nonprofit Atlanta Way 2.0 decided to bring Peachtree Street's namesake to downtown Atlanta by bringing a small grove of peach trees. 16 trees were brought from Pearson Farms in vintage crates with the promise that they would be planted at the end of summer. Crater says this isn't the first time there was a civic push for peach trees to make their home here.
When the Democratic National Convention was held in Atlanta, in 1988, there were a lot of visitors who commented on the lack of peach trees along Peachtree Street.
Well, I was told there was going to be peach trees on Peachtree Street. I don't see a single one.
And that prompted city officials to plant peach trees in Woodruff Park. And there had been, in newspaper accounts you see from the 1940s and 50s, we should plant peach trees on Peachtree Street. It didn't really ever come to fruition, but maybe they're doing it now because the World Cup is here. There are lots of tourists. Maybe it's a reaction to that, similar to the way it was in 1989 when they planted peach trees in Woodruff Park.
The peach trees from 1989 are long gone, and now what remains is the question of whether these new ones will thrive in this urban environment. Or will the next generation of Atlantans be wondering the same thing? Where are all the peach trees on Peachtree Street? For the ATL Arts Collective, I'm Summer Evans.
That was today's featured contributor, Summer Evans. We'll be back in just a moment.
Support comes from the Sun ATL, combining the elegance of a fine art gallery with the depth of a museum and the versatility of a premier meeting and event space. Located 1 block from the King Center in the Sweet Auburn district, the Sun ATL showcases photography alongside modern, contemporary, and outsider art by local and international artists. Open 11 to 5 on Fridays and Saturdays and by appointment. Explore exhibitions, plan your visit, or inquire about events at thesunatl.com.
Welcome back to the ATL Arts Collective. I'm Kim Drobes. Documentarian Wesley Boudelier and his filmmaking partner Cody Seymour started their YouTube channel Viewist in 2018. They specialize in forgotten pop culture oddities, and we are honored to have Wesley as a recurring contributor on the show. Today, he brings us the story of Izzy, the polarizing 1996 Atlanta Olympic mascot that had our city in constant debate.
The International Olympic Committee has awarded the 1996 Olympic Games to the city of Atlanta.
On September 18th, 1990, the city of Atlanta erupted with excitement as the International Olympic Committee announced that Atlanta had managed to do the impossible, beating out Athens, Greece to become the host city for the Centennial Olympic Games. The excitement was off the charts, but now the clock was ticking. Billy Payne became the president and CEO of the Atlanta Committee for the Olympic Games, ACOG for short, and there was a lot of work to do before this city was ready to welcome the world. They had less than 6 short years to construct a brand new 85,000-seat stadium, Centennial Olympic Park, and athlete housing. But there was something else on the agenda with an even tighter deadline. The Olympic torch would be passed to Atlanta at the end of the 1992 closing ceremony in Barcelona, and they needed an original mascot to help make a good first impression. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution held a contest, encouraging children to send in their own potential mascot designs, promising to share them with ACOG. Meanwhile, the committee was busy inviting several design firms to submit characters as well, although many of them scoffed when they heard there would be no compensation. They ended up with 10 options, including Friendly the Fawn, a gorilla dedicated to Zoo Atlanta's resident primate Willie B., a fox designed by Cabbage Patch Kids creator Xavier Roberts, a peanut named Peter Peachnut, and finally, a creation by John Ryan, senior director at Design FX. Ryan explained his design process to Atlanta Magazine in 2016. Quote, "There was a mention of trying to acknowledge regional flair. For me, that meant they were going to get designs that were pecans and peanuts and pooches, so I fell back to classic design technique, seeing things from the perspective of an alien who had just landed here. I was a transplant to Atlanta. Reducing the mascot to a possum or pecan or peach representing Atlanta seemed a little silly. Ryan's submission was not an animal like Willie B or a food like Peter Peachnut, and it definitely didn't look human. This was something else entirely. A computer-animated character shaped like a teardrop. It had 3 Olympic rings looped around its tail, and the other two above its eyelids. It had white gloves, lightning bolt-shaped eyebrows, and a huge, wide grin. It had no legs, yet somehow also wore oversized sneakers. His name was High Res. All of the submissions were laid out on a conference table when Billy Payne walked in, immediately smitten with the computer animation. ACOG member Harry Schumann later reflected on the decision, quote, "You didn't question Billy. He had already done the unthinkable. He had brought the games to Atlanta when nobody thought there was a chance. Who am I to question his choice?" Ryan was informed that his character had been selected, and his prize? Even more unpaid labor. He was sworn to secrecy, unable to tell even his own son about the project. ACOG had a list of notes and changes to be made so High Res could work as a physical mascot costume. This meant a string of all-nighters for Ryan. Ryan would later describe his relationship with the committee as, quote, "not sustainable." The committee was also responsible for High Res's first name change, which would arguably be the most controversial thing about him. A common question from members of ACOG who saw the design was, what is it? And for better or worse, the name stuck. He made his debut on August 9th, 1992, at the closing ceremony in Barcelona. A computer-animated version of What Is It filled the screen as a baffled Bob Costas introduced him for the first time. A troupe of 54 dancers in different colored b-boy outfits were suddenly joined by the blue smiling blob as he proceeded to show off his moves to the world. The backlash was instant. Local papers were filled with negative reactions, ranging from confusion to straight-up anger. Several scathing op-eds were published, calling the mascot utterly stupid, brazenly commercial, and an embarrassment to Atlanta. Columnists made fun of his goofy Jimmy Carter grin and compared him to a cockroach or slug. Simpsons creator Matt Groening called it a bad marriage of the Pillsbury Doughboy and the ugliest California raisin. And although there were reports that some members of ACOG secretly hated the city's newest punchline as well, they weren't going to admit it publicly, and Billy Payne was not wavering on his decision. He was quoted as saying, "Nobody liked Kobe, Barcelona's mascot, when it first came out. Not for 2 years. Everybody we talked to liked What Is It. It moves it into a new dimension, computer enhanced. We love it, and we are sticking with it." But you couldn't really blame him for doubling down. The Olympics were another 4 years away, but ACOG already had commemorative t-shirts available for purchase. And despite the negative press, What Is It was quickly becoming a merchandising goldmine. Through September 1992, merch revenues for the year had already doubled budget projections, raking in a cool $8.4 million. Even boxing legend Evander Holyfield was sporting a What Is It shirt during a 1992 weigh-in. 2 days after his controversial debut in Barcelona, What Is It made his first hometown appearance before an Atlanta Braves game. Inside the costume was former University of North Carolina cheerleader Mark Evans, who had also performed as What Is It during the closing ceremony.
I flew over and coached with the cast, came back on a completely separate flight in first class sitting next to Billy Payne. I thought, this is amazing. This is what an experience.
But after the response from the media, he was fully prepared for these baseball fans to start pelting him with peanuts.
There were death threats. I remember there was a brief flash in the pan moment where there was a brief discussion about getting me a security detail.
Luckily, he was greeted with more cheers than boos. Perhaps the city was warming up to this thing.
It exploded, even amidst all the controversy about, is this a good representation of the South? Is it a good representation of the Olympic Games in general? It was still, a very popular mascot. What Is It was getting requested for appearances, and it just jumped off.
ACOG didn't completely ignore the criticisms. Even they could admit that What Is It probably needed a new name that actually made sense. Another contest was held where children could vote on a new name for the mascot. The winning submission was Kirby, but due to copyright issues, they settled on the runner-up, Izzy. Izzy received a small makeover before the Olympics officially made their way to Atlanta. He became shorter, wider, and was given a small red nose. The new and improved Izzy could be found everywhere leading up to the '96 games. The Izzy balloon appeared in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade 3 years in a row, with the updated version debuting in 1995. And an Izzy video game was released for the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, just in time for the 1995 Christmas season. There was also an animated special called Izzy's Quest for Olympic Gold, Produced by Film Roman, the animation studio behind several Garfield specials, The Simpsons, and King of the Hill. The two places you would not find Izzy, however, were at the opening or closing ceremonies of the '96 Olympics. When asked about his absence, ACOG officials cited terrorism concerns as the reason behind their decision to leave the character out of the festivities. No, they weren't worried Izzy would be a target, but he was known to draw a crowd, and they decided it would be best to have an orderly flow of people entering the stadium. But Izzy was showing up in lots of other places throughout the city. He was seen at a men's basketball game in the Georgia Dome holding a sign that said, "Here I is." He would occasionally walk through the Olympic Village giving out high fives to the athletes, and he would make 3 appearances a day in Centennial Olympic Park. Unfortunately, Izzy's schedule was forced to change after the tragic bombing in Centennial Olympic Park on July 27th. He was now being escorted in a golf cart, lovingly nicknamed the Izzy Mobile, with a 4-person staff by his side. But even if spectators didn't see him in person, there was still ample opportunity to spend money on Izzy merchandise. His smiling face appeared on hats, collectible pins, shirts, plush dolls, and even a Coca-Cola can. Leading up to and during the 1996 Olympic Games, Izzy was undeniably a staple of the cultural zeitgeist. However, much like the games themselves, Izzy had an expiration date. On August 4th, the Atlanta Games came to an end. Centennial Olympic Stadium became Turner Field and served as the home for the Atlanta Braves for nearly 2 decades. The athlete housing in the Olympic Village became Georgia Tech dorms that are still in use today. And Centennial Olympic Park is still a popular destination for both tourists and Atlanta locals. But what about Izzy? He only existed to advertise an event that had now come to a close. Both Izzy and the Atlanta Games received their fair share of criticism for being too commercialized. But unlike many of the Olympic Games that came before and after, the Atlanta Games managed to have a positive economic impact on the city. Love it or hate it, Izzy was a big part of that success. With the passing of the torch to Sydney for the 2000 Olympic Games, Izzy's spotlight was now extinguished. In the following decades, Izzy has mostly been relegated to a charming nugget of 90s nostalgia and occasional punchline. But in an exclusive interview with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution in 1996, he didn't seem to mind his lot in life. He was quoted as saying, "Maybe with these games, the media needed something to make fun of, and that's okay." And when asked about his plans after the Olympics, he said he intended to return home to Torch World and go back to school at Notre Flame. For the ATL Arts Collective, I'm Wesley Boudelier.
Our featured contributor today is Rough Draft Atlanta's Summer Evans. Hi, Summer.
Hey, Kim.
So as you know, Atlanta has no shortage of hidden gems, and each week we're asking our featured contributor to unpack a few of their favorites. This is Beats, Bites, and Sights. Summer, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, let's go. Starting with live performances, is there a venue in town that you consider a favorite, maybe for music, dance, theater, or comedy?
I really enjoy the Eastern. My husband and I saw City in Color, which is one of my favorite singer-songwriters, a few years ago, and you can just get right up to the stage. I mean, I felt like he was singing directly to me. I really liked that venue. And of course, I also like Eddie's Attic and how small and intimate it is.
Yeah, those are both great choices. The Eastern is really interesting to me because, like you said, you can get really close, but it is quite a large venue. It's really, really well laid out.
Yeah, my husband was like, "Can we sit up at the stair or the chairs upstairs?" And I was like, no, this is my favorite artist. We are going to stand the whole 2 hours."
But that is another nice thing about the Eastern is there is actually a lot of places to sit if you need a break from those 2 hours, or if you're not with Summer, who can say?
Right.
So where is your favorite place to go for a bite or a beverage?
So I have 2 places, and they're 2 different kind of vibes. Every year for either my birthday or our anniversary, we like to go to Canoe over in Buckhead. I mean, the dining is amazing. You know, the service 10 out of 10. If you've ever been curious what kangaroo tastes like, which I know a lot of people might be like, "Oh no, not the kangaroos." They are like the deer of Australia. It is okay. The chef is Australian. So if that gives them a pass, it's pretty good. There's an appetizer that has a kangaroo and it's usually served with dark chocolate and it's so good.
Oh my gosh, you're killing me. I did not expect this.
Hey, I've gone every year since my 20th birthday. I'm 32 now, so I highly recommend. Like, I've never had anything bad on the menu. And then for a different kind of vibe, I like going to La Fonda's in the summer, getting a sangria, which is a sangria mixed with a margarita, sitting up on the top patio on Ponce overlooking, drinking my sangria and eating fish tacos. Totally
Oh,
recommend.
that's such a great choice. There is a newer La Fonda that's closer to my neighborhood on the east side. It's kind of in Kirkwood. And we were just there actually last night. They have a tilapia salad that is my go-to. Love it there.
That sounds so good.
Okay, lastly, moving on, where do you go to feed your soul with visual art? Is there a gallery or museum that always checks your boxes, or maybe even a mural in town that you love spending time with?
I really like the Michael C. Carlos Museum at Emory. It's never crowded. You really get to take your time looking at all the art. They have so much amazing Egyptian and ancient artwork down in the basement, and they have actual mummies, which is so wild to me. I really enjoy that one. And I love photography. And if I really want to see what's an up and coming photographer or a renowned photographer, the Jackson Fine Art Gallery in Buckhead is amazing. I literally got to meet one of my photography icons, Sally Mann at Jackson Fine Art. It was such an awesome experience a few years ago. So I highly recommend that place.
Great choices. Thank you, Summer. And that brings us to our next art story. Let's talk about the art of fashion. It's hard to imagine, but the legendary fashion designer Christian Dior was actually a late bloomer. Before finding success in 1946 at the age of 41, he went through a series of false starts. But when he finally debuted his dramatic new look, he revolutionized fashion forever. Now, the exhibition at SCAD FASH titled Dior, Crafting Fashion, is tracking how this historic house has preserved its old world techniques across generations of distinct designers. The show is on view through August 23rd, and joining us to pull back the curtain is writer Robert Stalker, whose recent ArtsATL story gives a fascinating overview of the exhibition. Robert, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So your piece opens with a wonderfully humanizing portrait of Dior, explaining that he was indeed a bit of a late bloomer. You quote him as saying that his parents viewed having the family name over a shop as the lowest degree of social shame, implying that his family was not only quite highbrow, but also pretty judgmental. Would you share more to help us understand how his early struggles influenced his work?
Well, that's a great question. So Dior was born in 1905 in Normandy and grew up in a really well-to-do family. His father was in the fertilizing business and was quite a success. And Dior grew up under what he described as like a set of Fraulein. He clearly had a very artistic, creative, aspirations and talents, but they were not encouraged. But early on, as a young man, he had proposed to his parents as a kind of compromise that he might study architecture. And that was just an absolute no-no. So his mother had ambitions for him to become a diplomat. So he studied political science for a time as a kind of compromise, which he said would allow him to lead the kind of life that he wanted to lead, which was basically kind of bumming around with other artists and bohemian figures and such. Dior would go on to eventually open an art gallery that was very successful, showing the likes of Picasso and Dali and things like that. But His biographer, Marie-France Pochna, says that even that, having his name on the door of an art gallery, was to Madame Dior no different than really opening a grocery store, which would have been,
Wow.
who would have considered like, yes, way beneath them.
Well, you explained that this particular exhibition unfolds over 7 thematic sections. So what can visitors expect from the opening section, Pathways to Creation?
You know, since Dior, there have been now 6, I think, successors as creative directors. And it doesn't just follow that straight path. You see Maria Grazia Curie, for example, and the mood boards that, you know, she would work from and gain inspiration from, all the way to the latest creative director, Jonathan Anderson, who's got a wonderful piece inspired by a ceramicist. And so you get to see like the video of this ceramicist working and then kind of see the bulbous shape of the dress that he seems to be emulating from her.
Very neat. Well, another section that you detail takes visitors behind the scenes of how these garments are actually constructed. Can you paint a picture of what it's like to look at the test garments?
The ateliers are like the workrooms, right? And in France, you know, it's very regulated, right? What counts as couture? It has to be handmade top to bottom. I remember hearing Jonathan Anderson say that even though he knew that, you know, when he was first brought into Dior, he was just kind of taken aback by going into the atelier and not seeing a single sewing machine, right? It's all done by hand. So
Wow.
That section takes us in there. We see them in various states, but also some completed garments there too, including a really nice suit in a like charcoal Prince of Wales check from the Belgian designer Raf Simons or Simons. It's a painstaking process, that something that Dior really wanted to revive. He had a tremendous regard for this kinds of old world craftsmanship that maybe even at the time was, you know, going out of style a little bit.
Another interesting part of your review is how the exhibition casts certain designers in fresh light. 90s director Gianfranco Ferré, who also was an architect by training. You said that was one of the things that Dior considered. He ran the house before the era of social media and superstar designers. How do you think this exhibition gives him the credit he deserves?
That was one of the more eye-opening parts of the exhibit for me. I feel like what you see here is the way in which he anticipates some of the more extravagant theatricality, but maybe with a little subtler touch. And of course, always because of his background in architecture, just exquisitely constructed garments. So we have a couple examples in there from him. And the other one for me that was so eye-opening was to see Maria Grazia Curie, because what seems to get so much attention was some of her more provocative garments, like the T-shirts that, for example, the "We Should All Be Feminists" T-shirts were very kind of famous, taking their title from the Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who wrote a slender book called that. So those got a lot of attention. But for me, I wasn't as acquainted with some of her, you know, dress designs, garment designs. And you can see that she has a real deep appreciation for textiles, and her garments they're just beautiful and they seem very touchable. So to me, she definitely deserves this look in a new light.
Yeah, that's great. As you mentioned, she is pretty famous for the headline grabbing slogan T-shirts, like the one that you mentioned. And I think another one is "Sisterhood is global, sisterhood is powerful." I wonder how many people are actually aware of her gowns and other work.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And she said that when she was hired on, all the press was like, oh, yes, the first female designer for Dior, which is, by the way, a big deal.
Big deal. Yeah.
But she had already been in couture for 20 years. But yeah, she's a wonderful designer in her own right.
And I mean, it makes sense. A t-shirt is pretty much lowest common denominator. So for those of us that just are not into high fashion, we're still going to know who she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the exhibition concludes with Stars in Dior, tracking legendary Hollywood clients from Marlene Dietrich, who famously demanded no Dior, no Dietrich, to very modern stars. The house's current director, who you mentioned earlier, Jonathan Anderson, is the first person to head both the men's and women's collection since Dior himself. Based on what you saw, how is Anderson using Hollywood glamour to bring the house's legacy full circle?
This is something seems to be, pretty upfront about leaning into. It's just a big part of the Dior legacy, isn't it? I think that Jonathan Anderson is kind of extending and maybe accelerating the courtship of Hollywood glamour.
Indeed. Oh, this has been a wonderful preview. Robert, thank you so much for your time today. It has been absolutely lovely. I appreciate you.
Hey, thanks, Kim.
You can read Robert's full story on ArtsATL.org. And by the way, SCAD will screen summer classic blockbusters this month and next month, including Raiders of the Lost Ark, Grease, and Catch Me If You Can. The film tickets are $8 for the general public, except for Grease, it's a sing-along and it is completely free. You can learn more at scadshow.com/events. It's time now for ArtsATL's Best Bets with executive editor Shane Harrison. This week his mix includes actor and musician Tommy Davidson at City Winery, the Monster Ball in Little 5 Points, and Tori Amos at Symphony Hall.
With the 4th of July and most of Atlanta's portion of the World Cup in the rearview mirror, we've reached the summer doldrums where arts and entertainment are concerned. But that doesn't mean there's nothing to do. There's even a couple of festivals on the roster this coming week. First up is the Atlanta African Dance and Drum Festival happening July 17th through the 19th. Presented by the African Jaylee Cultural Institute near Adair Park, the fest offers music and dance workshops, a craft market, a concert, food vendors, and more. In a preview for last year's festival, one of the featured dance instructors urged everyone to dance, saying, "Nobody is a good dancer or a bad dancer. Dance is expression. It's therapy in Africa." In Peachtree Corners, the Midsummer Kids Festival is a summertime celebration designed especially for kids and the grown-ups who love them. It includes the Children's Entrepreneur Market with more than 40 kid-run businesses, where young creators showcase their talents through handmade crafts, art, games, and sweet treats. Join the fun near Peachtree Corners Town Green on July 18th. If you want a reminder of cooler weather, the Monster Ball takes over Little 5 Points on Saturday, July 18th, bringing creatures of the night, music lovers, and costume-clad characters together for a night of early Halloween energy. Monster Ball is a fundraiser for the Little 5 Points Halloween Festival and Parade, supporting programs that keep the neighborhood creative, artist-driven, and one of the most unique cultural districts in Atlanta. Expect live music from Mongo, DJ sets from DJ Novak, a costume contest with prizes for the boldest and most over-the-top looks, plus raffle giveaways throughout the evening. Costumes are highly encouraged. And summer is always packed with music, and this week is no exception. Styx in Chicago, two bands with little in common other than their Windy City origins, will play Ameris Bank Amphitheater on Friday, July 17th. State Farm Arena has another busy weekend with J. Cole performing on both Friday and Saturday, July 17th and 18th. Cole has had an impressive career that includes having each of his 7 studio albums debut at the top of the Billboard 100 chart. On Sunday, July 19th, the arena plays host to a night of great R&B with Lionel Richie and Earth, Wind & Fire. Tori Amos has been performing since the late 80s and still commands a fervent following nearly 40 years later. She'll bring her latest tour, in support of her new album In Times of Dragons, to Symphony Hall on Saturday, July 18th. Beloved Illinois emo band American Football comes to Variety Playhouse on Thursday, July 16th. In its original incarnation, the band released just one album in 1999 before taking a long hiatus. They returned in 2016 with their second album and have since released two more, the most recent one in May. All four albums are titled simply American Football. If you're looking for laughs, stand-up comedian, actor, and musician Tommy Davidson will be at City Winery on July 17th and July 18th. He's best known as one of the stars of the hit television show In Living Color. Mississippi native Carlos Miller grew up in a large blended family with 8 siblings who all became major influences on his edgy, boisterous comedy style. After working briefly as a firefighter in Oxford, Mississippi, he moved to Atlanta in 2005 to pursue a career as a stand-up comedian. He'll be at Helium Comedy Club on July 17th, 18th, and 19th. For the ATL Arts Collective and ArtsATL, I'm Shane Harrison.
Shane curates an even longer list each week, and you can read all about his picks at artsatl.org. We have reached the end for today. Special thanks to this week's featured contributor, Summer Evans. Summer, it is always a pleasure to hang out with you.
Thank you, Kim. I will come back anytime you invite me.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you again. And thank you for listening to the ATL Arts Collective. You can join us on social at ArtsAtlanta as well as at ATL Arts Collective. You'll find pictures and links related to today's show at artsatl.org/podcast. And if you'd like to buy the podcast a cup of coffee, visit our support page at atlartscollective.com. Stay with us. We'll be right back with a look at what's coming up next week.
Support comes from our fellow local journalists.
Hey y'all, I'm Naja Parker, co-host of the It's You ATL podcast, powered by the AJC.
Hey y'all.
Hello.
Ooh, twins.
Where we break down the stories, trends, and conversations shaping Black culture in Atlanta and across the South. From music and entertainment to politics, relationships, and community issues, if it's happening in the culture, we're talking about it. Listen to It's You ATL wherever you get your podcast.
Welcome back. While you're listening right now, please subscribe, rate, and review. It really does help others find the show. Our theme music is K. Michelle Dubois' Hit the Deck from her album Astral Heart, courtesy of Wicked Superb Records. Next week on the show, Shanita Miller of Black Girl's Guide to Atlanta returns, this time with a story about ColorPath. The new wayfinding app features physical, scan, and explore markers that help locals and visitors discover Atlanta's Black-owned businesses. The ATL Arts Collective is part of the Wordplay Collective podcast family. Check out our sister show, In Pieces with Our Land, for conversations with artist Our Land. Thanks again for listening. I'm Kim Drobes, and this is the ATL Arts Collective.